All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on something amazing, the hidden engine that truly powers the search for medical cures.
So imagine this. You hear on the news that a brand new life-saving drug has been approved, maybe for a devastating disease like ALS. Your first thought, it probably goes to a big pharmaceutical company, right? But is that really the whole story? Turns out it's not even close. The headlines we all see, they're just the tip of the iceberg. What's hiding beneath the surface is often decades of foundational, painstaking work that happened not in a corporate high-rise, but in a university lab. This is the story of that hidden engine. So where does this all begin? Well, it starts with a spark. It starts with a simple but incredibly powerful act of just asking fundamental questions. This is where pure curiosity becomes the actual blueprint for a cure. This right here is the absolute heart of academic science. You see, unlike an industry lab that kind of has to focus on developing a specific profitable drug, university researchers have the freedom to just ask, why? Why do motor neurons die in ALS? How do these proteins get all tangled up? What are the basic rules of our own biology? It's not about finding a product, not yet anyway. It's about finding knowledge.
And wow, does this approach get results? Just look at this list. These aren't drug names. These are fundamental biological processes. Things like protein aggregation, which is basically just proteins clumping together and causing chaos, or identifying the specific genetic typos that can kickstart the whole disease. These core discoveries, the ones that tell us how ALS actually works, they all came out of academic labs.
And here's why that is so crucial. You can't design a drug if you don't know what you're aiming at. It's impossible. This curiosity-driven research is what builds the map. It identifies the exact biological targets that drug companies can then, years later, aim their therapies at. Okay, so if that basic discovery builds the roadmap, what about the engine itself? Well, it's really built from two critical parts, the people and the incredible tools they create. First, the people. Think about it. Universities are the primary training ground for our next generation of scientists. From graduate students learning the ropes at the lab bench to postdoctoral fellows pushing the absolute boundaries of research. This is the pipeline that produces the brilliant minds who are going to lead the fight against diseases like ALS, whether they stay in academia or go on to work in industry. But training brilliant people isn't quite enough. They need tools. And one of the biggest challenges in medicine is how in the world do you safely and ethically study a disease that's happening deep inside the human nervous system? Well, academic labs solve this problem by creating what we call disease models. It sounds like science fiction, but it's real. They developed animal models to watch the disease progress over time and, get this, they pioneered techniques using patient-derived stem cells to essentially grow a patient's own motor neurons in a lab dish. I mean, this is absolutely revolutionary. It lets scientists test ideas and screen drugs on actual living human disease cells. So, we have the engine, we have the drivers, but what's the fuel that makes it all run? It's the constant, powerful stream of new data and new discoveries that just keeps pouring out. One of the most important fuel sources has been genetics. We are talking about decades of painstaking work by university researchers, identifying gene after gene that's linked to ALS. This has totally transformed our understanding of the disease, showing us the specific molecular machinery that's broken. At the same time, these labs are hunting for something called biomarkers. So what's a biomarker? The easiest way to think about it is like a biological fingerprint, maybe a protein in your blood or spinal fluid that basically tells you what the disease is doing at any given moment. And the importance here is just profound. Instead of just waiting to see if a patient's physical symptoms get better, which can be really slow and subjective, biomarkers let researchers see if a drug is actually hitting its target and changing the biology of the disease. It is a total game changer for making clinical trials faster and way more accurate. Okay, so this all leads to the most important connection of all. How does all this incredible work in the lab actually reach the people who need it the most? This is where academic medical centers are just so unique. They play this amazing dual role. On one hand, they provide incredible wraparound care for patients. And on the other hand, they are the very places where clinical trials for brand new therapies are actually happening. This means patients can get the best care possible while also getting a chance to participate in truly cutting-edge research. But it's really important to know that none of this happens in a vacuum. Modern science isn't about some lone genius working in a lab. It's all about collaboration, which acts like a supercharger for the entire research engine.
I mean, a disease as complex as ALS requires a whole team of experts. Inside a single university, you'll have geneticists finding the mutations, cell biologists figuring out what those mutations do to the neurons, and data scientists crunching huge data sets to find hidden patterns. This kind of multidisciplinary teamwork is a massive strength of academic institutions. And that collaboration extends outside the university. There's this incredibly powerful partnership with industry. Think of it like a handoff. Academia is best at the discovery part, finding the targets. Industry excels at the development part, designing and making the drugs to hit those targets. They absolutely need each other. And for a rare disease like ALS, that collaboration has to go global. International networks let researchers from different continents pool all their data and patient samples together, which creates studies that are so much larger and more powerful than any single place could ever do on its own. So where do we go from here? Well, maybe the most exciting part about this whole research engine is that it's not static. It is constantly being upgraded with new technologies and new ideas. And these upgrades are happening in university labs right now. We're talking about mind-blowing fields like gene editing, therapies that can target RNA directly, and even using artificial intelligence to discover new drugs. These are the frontiers being explored today in academia that are going to fuel the cures of tomorrow. Which brings us right back to our original question. The next time you see one of those amazing headlines about a new medical cure, you'll know the backstory. You'll know to thank the drug company, for sure, but you'll also know to thank the generations of graduate students, postdocs, and professors in university labs all over the world whose curiosity and persistence built the very engine that made it all possible.